Hi, I'm Jen Healy, and I am coming to you live with a video with one of my favorite clients. This is Sydney Rainin-Smith. And I do have to say, this is one of my superstar clients. She's somebody who sees me regularly, and we've been working together for at least 15 years, and it's been amazing to share with somebody the entire full scope of my comprehensive healing programs. So we've done body work together, we've worked with the technologies, she's done all of my empowerment coaching courses, right? Would you say?
Yep.
She listens to my meditations. I've recorded a lot of my meditations live in our sessions, which we'll experience today if everything goes well. And she was also part of my women's groups when I was offering the free women's groups a few years back. So we've done a lot of really great work together. And today I want to talk about the meditation and the meditation process. This is all part of my inspiration to launch this meditation course this fall. So I'm taking a compilation of all the techniques that I have come across, which I'm calling the core activation meditation techniques. And I've put together a list of 64 different techniques that help to clear, align, and cleanse our body. Not only our physical body, but our mental, emotional, and psycho-spiritual body. And this will allow us to feel like more energized, better health, improved sense of self, like calm mind, more peaceful, those kind of things. You know, so stress is one of the reasons why we use meditation, and that's really common. But I also want to use meditation as a daily practice to like uplift our spirit and allow us to become like our best being, our best human. So I thought it would be fun to do some interviews with some of my clients that have been working with me regularly. I'm going to interview some people who are brand new, and Sydney is probably my most dedicated and oldest client that has done everything that I think would be a really great example of like the journey. And I just wanted to have her talk a minute about her history of when she started seeing me, what the progression has been, how she feels like the meditations have helped you, and then we'll just go back and forth and just freestyle with some open-ended questions. Okay, so Sydney, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
It's really an honor to have an interview finally. I've been wanting to do this for a while. So go ahead and we'll just talk to the camera and include you guys. So tell us a little bit about your meditation experience and just the whole journey of working together.
So when I started working with Jen 15 years ago, I had never meditated before. I had heard about it, but had never done anything like it before. And starting to work with Jen, we started out doing, just a little bit. She kind of was very good about it. She eased me in to the whole idea of meditation. And it was, it's progressed so much over the years. And I've really been thinking a lot about when we first started together and how different it was. And it was different, but in the end, it's all still the same because it is that mind, body, spirit connection that you are aligning yourself into the world. So when we started, it was very great for me because I have a super active mind. I'm a doer out there in the world, and I have a hard time calming down enough. And I had a difficult time with just doing the focus on my breath. So Jen did guided meditations. She still does them. They're all on her website. And I think I've listened to all of them about 1,000 times. I'm not sure. And they're so amazing. When we first started out, it was really me trying to figure out how do I drop into a place that actually makes a difference for me in my world. And it has progressed over these many years into the meditations that are online now that you can listen to. And they're amazing. I mean, it used to take me quite a while to get calmed down enough, but now I just hear 2 words come out of her mouth and I can drop right into this very amazing, calm and connected place and it's not only just to calm me down. It actually gives me energy. So I come out of her meditations. If I do those meditations in the daytime, in the mornings, which I usually do them in the mornings, I am energized and I have so much more energy throughout the day. And if I do them at night, because sometimes I need them as a calming mechanism, and they're amazing to fall asleep to as well. So it's incredible.
Yeah, thank you, Sydney. That was a great introduction. And
Yeah.
what I wanted to do is create meditations for people who have trouble meditating. So guided meditations for me was the answer. So I started meditating back in 96 after having several knee injuries that wasn't allowing me to exercise, which was the way that I was managing my stress. So I always used movement as my therapy, both for my mental health and my physical well-being. And then after having two knee surgeries in a row, my therapist, who I started going to for the first time, was like, you should probably meditate. And I was, fresh off the boat from Philly and like, what the hell is that? So none of it was, there was no spiritual anything from my background. And so this is not a religious practice for me at all. So when I say connecting to your source or connecting to spirit or life force energy, it's whatever that makes sense to you. Whatever resonates for you is the way that I want you to use the meditations. So after I am an eternal student as well. So after researching lots of different teachers and trying different styles, Zen Buddhism was my entrance into the practice. I had tried yoga, but it didn't make any sense to me at that time. Mm-hmm. So meditation was my way in. And I studied every single kind I could get my hands on. And sitting still and just focusing on my breath and having no thought just didn't make sense to me at that time. My body hurt. I was dealing with a lot of pain and a lot of injury, as well as a very active mind. I was in a PhD program at the time in engineering and physics, and so there was just a lot of mental activity. So then I came across some more esoteric teachings that were more, I'd say, like multidimensional in nature. It was called Palladian light work. And this was after I moved to San Francisco and was exposed to some wonderful healing masters that were also guiding me on my path and helping me to understand this deeper connection beyond the physical form and what energy is and how energy flows and in how to direct my mind and my attention. And so then by 2003, I had started this quantum theta healing is what I call it now, this quantum theta healing meditation process that I would do on my clients quietly. I wouldn't do it out loud. And they would be like, what are you doing? I'm feeling this like tingling, bubbling sensation, or all of a sudden I'm feeling like completely relaxed or energized, different directions, whatever their body was needing. And all I was doing was these particular, it wasn't like Reiki, which is just a popular term that people are familiar with. It was, I call it like Reiki plus plus. It was a totally different experience. And so then my clients, like Sydney, was asking me to do it out loud with them. And so then we started recording them. And so these were really like live, raw, unedited versions that I have set to brainwave music and done a little bit more mastering now, but they're really just spontaneous. So it's almost like channeled material because it's not scripted. I don't plan them, but yet it does have this basis. This I use a lot of wisdom tools that are influencing the practices that we're doing. So then fast forward, 10 years later, I really wanted to offer these techniques in the form, I call them core activation meditation techniques. I wanted to offer them in the form of a course, a 12-week course, because meditation does take time, right? So most people are like, I tried meditating, it didn't work, and it's kind of not like that. It's like going to the gym, and we want to like really strengthen those spiritual muscles and our capacity to learn some skills and some tools that'll help us along the way, besides meditation for beginners, which I'll give you guys some links to. I found some great free meditations for you guys to just focus on the breath and align the spine and things like that. So the techniques that I've come up with are really more active techniques to direct your thoughts in your mind in order to give you some tools that you can expand your toolbox. It's kind of like a buffet that you get to choose from. I really want you to make them your own. And this will help your body not only feel more relaxed and calm, like stress relieving, but it'll really start to heal the body from past wounds that we might carry or stories that we might have or beliefs that are holding. It's all being affected. The system will manifest an injury when there's an imbalance. And so I'd love you, Sydney, to chime in with just some of the healing components that you've gotten from the meditation practice, because I know when we first started working together, you originally came to me for like lower back pain, which we addressed physically, but then we started to kind of unravel the story. Right. And now it's great to have this long-term relationship because every week she's so good about coming in with something to chew on. But there's always going to be something. So we work that story, or we work the life situation into a place where we feel more empowered and more centered and aligned. So just give some examples, or just go ahead and just share whatever feels right about the healing journey of what meditation has done for you.
Mm-hmm. So when I first started to see Jen, I had a pretty serious low back injury, and I had that from when I was younger. But then I also had 2 babies very close together, and it exacerbated that problem pretty significantly. And that's really why I started seeing Jen. A girlfriend of mine had seen Jen, and she had helped heal her neck. And so I started with Jen, and it was fantastic. And it took a while, because that's the way it was for me. I needed to learn where my stress was being held, why it was being held there, what my stories around it were. I think a lot of it had to do with, feeling supported in my life or not feeling supported in my life. That's when my flare-ups would happen. And starting, you mentioned earlier that she used to do it quietly and meditate basically for me while we were in our sessions. And I kept thinking, what is happening? What is going on while this is happening? And what are you doing specifically? And then she started talking a little bit more about it as we got to know each other more and more. And it was almost, she used to do this blessing at the end of our massage that was completely silent. She never said a word about it. And that 5 minutes did almost more for me than the whole hour and a half before it of having massage. It was so spectacular. And that's when she and I started doing more of it out loud together. And she would guide, particularly those early Palladian light meditations they're just as powerful today as they were back then, but it's morphed into this amazing experience now, these core activation meditations that she does. They're perfect for me because they allow me to really feel my body, feel what's happening in my body, where the stress is being held, or where I'm holding whatever it is that I'm holding in my body that's making me have pain. And it melts away. It is remarkable. And the more consistent I am with it, particularly meditating in the morning, starts my day off so incredibly well. I get completely energized by those meditations in the morning. However, if I need them to calm down or to relieve stress, or if I'm getting overwhelmed by sensations, they will also calm me down. So I also sometimes use them in the evenings to help myself fall asleep in the evenings. And they're incredible. And yet, the same meditation works entirely differently in the morning as opposed to the night, or whatever I'm needing from it. So that's a little bit about, I could go on and on and on, but it's
perfect.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you,
so
Sydney.
incredible.
Yeah, so I really created these meditations for people who have trouble meditating, like myself, and perfect for clients like Sydney, who are also like, oh, I can't meditate, and feel like there's so much going on and there's so much doing. And there's a lot of influence to these meditations. We've in my empowerment coaching practice and all the different tools that we have been incorporating over these years, Abraham Hicks has been a huge influence to basically direct the thoughts, direct the mind. It's not controlling the mind, which is a tricky line to consider, but it's directing them. And so sometimes gratitude and positive thinking and affirmations, making lists of appreciations will really help someone. But other times, like, you're too far down the rabbit hole to pull yourself out to get to appreciation, right? Yeah. Like, gratitude is too far away. So what I do with the meditations, and I'll just give you some examples here, and then we're going to record a live session and offer that to you. And I'll have Sydney lay down, because typically we work on the table, and so she's laying down, but I would work one-on-one with somebody and just have them sitting up if it was during the day, or laying down if it's at night, whether they want to become more centered and aligned and energized, or if they want to really calm and release into a higher state of consciousness, which I call theta state. So there's a lot of influence to these meditations. So Abraham Hicks has been a big influence, and I just like to give a shout out to them because I really love what they've offered, and they are like huge cheerleaders for the meditation process. I really started out with Zen Buddhism and was studying Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Suzuki Roshi, and that was basically what brought me into calling my practice Zen healing and having that meditative experience for my clients. And now I really do actually share with them guided meditations out loud. But before, I was just kind of creating this meditative space to shift the state of consciousness so that healing could happen. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some techniques that really work well for both myself and for Sydney, and we'll go back and forth and just share what some of those experiences have been like. But I'm going to share with you why I created this meditation and for my process with my mind, and the idea of creating no thought or stilling the mind just didn't really happen. I can get into it a little bit better now after meditating for like 25 years. But so for me, there's like this mental mouse running around all the time, and it's in this two-dimensional maze, and the mouse cannot see where it's going, and it's running into obstacles and walls, and so this is what I call life, right? So how many people can relate to the mental mouse? So the mental mouse is just running around in this maze and hitting all these dead ends and not knowing where to go, and it's kind of like a crapshoot, right? Just kind of trying all the different routes. And so what happens with meditation, and this is why I really look forward to meditating and enjoy meditating so much, and I want to hopefully encourage you to do this practice so that it becomes that experience for you instead of a struggle. It's like I'm giving my mental mouse permission to go parasailing, right? And so I send my mental mouse up into this hot air balloon where it can gain perspective, where it can have like greater insight, and maybe even inspiration and ideas will come for like, oh, that's the path, or now I see that there's no end to this maze. Like, why am I driving myself crazy trying to get to the end where there is no end, right? Things like that. So the idea of not just trying to get rid of the mental mouse or killing the mental mouse, which is a very Western approach, but we allow the mental mouse to go parasailing, to send it up into its hang glider and just have a good time, give it a joyride, give it a break from all of that running around. And I have to tell you, my mind is always so grateful to get a break from all of that mental noise. You know what I mean? The mental mouse really wants to gain that. Don't you want your greater perspective, when you're in that maze, when you feel like you're running around and there's dead ends, you don't know where to go? So meditation, it brings me a lot of relief in that capacity. And then I also have this practice that I call mental floss. So I'm just giving a couple that I think are really funny because the names that come to me, all of this is just spontaneous and live in the meditation process. So when I go into meditation, I basically get these downloads, or this channel, if you will. And so it's not scripted, it just comes through, even though it's been influenced by all these incredible wisdom tools over the last 20 years and lots of different master level teachers. So I'm going to talk to you about the mental floss, which is one of the new techniques. So these core activation techniques, there's 64 of them. I'm going to offer you 2 or 3 a day in the 30-day meditation challenge, which is free. And then we're going to expand on that and give you more information over a 12-week period. So we'll learn 5 or 6 a week in the 12-week meditation course. So we can really dive deep into trying those different techniques every day for a week and seeing how they work for you, and then adding on and adding on. So if I just walked up to you and said, here's 64 meditation techniques, it's like, mind blown. Not going to happen. Overwhelm, right? But if we do little bite-sized pieces, and every day we learn just a couple, and we incorporate those into our daily experiences. I want the meditation process for you not to just be like, okay, when I'm sitting in meditation, I feel calm and centered. And then I go out into the world, and then there's my boss, and then there's traffic, and then there's kids, and you go crazy, So can we keep just a little bit, maybe 20% of that centeredness and that consciousness throughout our day, so we can come back into alignment, so we can come back into our breath, and we can ultimately come back to that connection that brings us more energy, more life force energy, more communication with our higher self. Okay, so mental floss is another thing that I mentioned, and I'll just mention like 3 and then we'll go back and forth.
Yeah.
So the mental floss is where I actually feel like these golden ribbons can kind of go through my entire system and pull out, like flossing your teeth, it's pulling out all of that gookiness, all the stuck places. Like, did your mind ever like fall into a groove or a thought pattern and it just keeps repeating it over and over again like it's on a loop or a tape? Well, let's use some mental floss to get that out, right? So I just see it pulling up and out and then just like send it up into the sun to like burn it off, right? So the mental floss is one that I use quite a bit. And then the other one I really like is the flushing. So this idea of like flushing the toilet. So flushing is like flushing the physical body or flushing the mental body or emotional body, anywhere where it feels like the energy is stuck. We have to regularly flush our system, just like we flush our toilet, in order to get rid of some sort of pattern, some habit, some thought, some feeling. I just flush it, and it really works well. It's amazing. And then I just flush that down. So we learn how to connect to the earth, and then we learn how to connect up into the heaven and the sun. And then the other one I really like are the golden balls. I've been doing this practice of surrounding every person in a golden ball. So it's like I'm blessing them, and I'm saying, I surround you with love and light, and now I'm going to release you from my field. And so we are all in our own golden balls of light. This creates a really healthy, safe, clean, clear boundary for our energy. So we know where we begin and other people end and all of that. And then we send these golden balls up and out. So we just send it out like a fountain and send their energy back to them. Right? So if you're having conflict with somebody, this is a really good practice to do. It's like golden ball, and it's like it's like you can see their mouth moving and they're talking, but you can't hear them anymore, right? Just like out there. And so this is really good for clearing the psychic field as well, the mental, emotional, and physical body. And then I just decided to give everybody that you love and everybody you know, just surround them in their own golden balls for their own healing. This is why I call this holographic body enhancement. They can have their own healing or their own experience, or, release them, forgive them, let them go of any sort of story or situation that we really get stuck, because every memory is stored in our cells. It's actually shifting our DNA, shifting the way that we're seeing the world, and influencing our belief systems. Mm-hmm. And we want to consciously start to shift that and choose what we're going to see, what we're going to look at, what we're going to focus on, what story we're telling ourselves. All those things are super important that we deliberately take charge of our mind and our thoughts and direct them. Mm-hmm. So any favorites that you have, Sydney, that you would like to share?
I'm so glad you said you brought up the flushing one, because that one's so powerful to do in a meditative state, to have just everything swirl down into the earth and be recycled, and then renewed, composted, and then brought back up as, this really powerful energy, which that one I really love. I also love the roses. Kind of the shower of roses that you've done. We've done one where, and I'm not exactly sure what you call it, with the lotus flowers coming, doing like the cascading waterfall down the spine in the back. That one I really love.
I call those golden showers.
Golden showers, which
they're
is,
all a little bit funny because it's me, and so the names are like, okay, golden showers.
Don't think of the normal one that you would think of. This is a really lovely one with lotus flowers, exactly, coming all around.
So the white roses of forgiveness. Mm-hmm. So let's just talk about that for a second, because what I do is you put yourself in a golden ball, and then you surround your golden ball with these white roses. Mm-hmm. And so when those other golden balls try to come back in, because they will, okay?
They always do.
They will. Those thoughts will try to come back in. You give them a white rose of forgiveness, and you're telling them, I'm sending you off on your way with blessings. And it really does, like, my body gets chills, thinking about it, because we're so used to, like, for me, at least, I'll talk about myself, closing the door. I mean, like, you are out, right? And so I have all these closed doors, all these blockages, all these obstacles in my energetic field from things that didn't work out, or like grudges, grievances, all these things that we're holding, resentments. We can go on and on. So what would happen differently in my field? And this just was, again, spontaneous, that was offered to me from my higher self in meditation. What would happen if I surround that person or situation in a golden ball and give them a white rose of forgiveness and send them off with like just a gentle little nudge, and then source, or our higher self, or our guidance, or our angels, whatever you'd like to call it, will help guide them back to their source. Because a lot of times these energies just don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know what to do with them. You can send them off in a little boat and let them float away. You can send them up in a hot air balloon. I love using imagination and visualization. It's really like a cartoon process for me in my head, because my spirit speaks to me in images and in these kind of like holographic images. So it'll play out an entire story in like a split second, and then I'm trying to translate that into words or something that I can give my clients.
Which I love that. I mean, I love that one about create, because I have the opposite effect where I let everybody in. I take on everyone else's
just you
energy. No, I mean, of course, like everyone does that. Yeah. And so I love that golden ball of like surrounding yourself. It also reminds me of what we did, how it's kind of changed, where you would have us create our aura and seal in our aura with the cobalt blue and that bright white light inside, and those are really powerful for me because they help me come back into myself and create an energetic boundary around myself where I know that I am taken care of and I am fine and I can keep to myself and not let everybody else's energy in, which is great.
So what Sydney is talking about, which I see really commonly, probably the most common thing I see, is these energy leaks. Right? And so people are leaking energy all over the place. It might be physically that they're drained, right? Because that's how it manifests. But usually it's like an emotional drain or a mental drain, and we want to identify where we're leaking energy and start to seal them up. And so surrounding the auric field, or this body of light in this bubble with an electric blue trim and a vibrant purple film, will like filter out all low frequencies and give you like an electric fence almost, that like when somebody tries to come into your field, they'll be like, whoa. And it is not necessarily like an imprisonment as much as just an awareness of your space and a permission to hold space. And there's all this horizontal courting that happens with people. It's like a bartering system. You do this for me, and I do this for you, and we call this love, right? And so the whole world is really set up on this bartering system, which I call horizontal courtings, particularly solar plexus, with second and third chakras, which we go over those quite a bit in the meditations. And so we learn how to create a vertical alignment. So then you have your own pillar. So you have, not only are you able to stand strong and centered in your own being, but you're grounded and plugged into the earth, like rooted in like a tree. And then your pillar of light goes up into the heavens, and you plug into a higher source. That could just be the sun. That could be the center of the galaxy. That could be the heavens. That could be the creator of all that is, and just your divine self. Whatever you want to call it, you just have to use your imagination to feel like it's real. Sometimes the sun is real enough, and people are like, okay, if you connect to the sun, just imagine yourself as a solar panel plugged directly into the sun, billions and billions of light energy being able to pulse through you. It's incredible. But for other people that do feel like it's a multidimensional universe, or that they can go up into the heavens, or there is this higher self that's guiding them, then you will really feel this sense of just really strong pillar of centeredness and this aliveness that comes from presence. So it's an incredible experience to shift from horizontal courting to vertical alignment. Okay, so that's part of why we create this body of light, or this bubble around us, as well as this vertical pillar. It really makes a huge difference. Yeah. So I keep chiming in.
I love it because, and I was actually just explaining this one to my husband the other day. With the tree and having the branches, having your roots be just as wide and deep and fabulous as the branches that you create that are coming up. And that one I always go back to because it really gets me grounded right away. And I'm able to think like, and we've worked, because I own a business and, there's a lot of stress in the world and all of that stuff. There's always a way to get to your solution or answer. And I remember particularly in that core activation meditation, that if one branch is not reaching somewhere else, then there are a million other branches that can get there another way. That's right. And that I love that one a lot.
Yeah, beautiful. So the difference between these core activation meditation techniques that I've been downloaded over the last 6 months to share, the difference between them and what I was offering before with the quantum theta healing is a real deeper rooted connection to the crystalline core of the earth. So the core activation, because I'm sure people are like, why is she calling it core activation meditation? So it's the core of our being, but it's also the very core of the earth that we're connecting to. I'm really good at going up and out into the heavens. I'm like, out. And a lot of people, they find that multidimensional space really kind of confusing, and like they're guessing, like, I don't know, I guess I feel like I'm connected, you know, and there's a lot of that in the beginning of meditation. But like the earth happens to have this amazing gravitational pull, and we are constantly being pulled back towards the center of our belonging, this longing here. And so we're really attached to the earth. And so I found that in these core activation meditations, and this idea of creating this consciousness grid or spreading your branches out really wide, so what you're manifesting on the outer world is actually being mirrored back in the inner world, and that the earth is here to support you so that we're being nourished, that we're pulling up nutrients and the nourishment we need from the earth, which is super important, that we're feeling really grounded and safe and protected, like we're being held here. You know, you can experience strong winds and your leaves can blow off, but your trunk and your roots are really holding you. So that was a really important shift in my consciousness and the way that I was approaching my meditation in the last year. And I can really feel the difference. I've had a lot of knee and lower back injuries over the last 20-some years, and my legs feel so connected now and so attached to my body and so much stronger, and I haven't been experiencing nearly as many difficulties with my lower body as I was previously when I felt like a kite, you know, just holding on by a string. Like that string got cut, I was like, phew. So everybody's different. Maybe you do feel more rooted and you want to go up and out and feel that connection to the higher realms. I will be offering lots of practices for that. And maybe you feel like, oh, I'm flighty, or I'm not grounded enough. This will really plug you into the crystalline core. And I'm calling it the crystalline core because we're actually beginning to shift our DNA structure from a carbon base to a crystalline base. So we wind up meditating in these crystalline pyramids, like in our imagination, but you imagine yourself sitting in a crystal and meditating and feeling connected to that crystalline core, which is kind of our purest, highest essence, our purest state of being, is what I'm using the imagination to stimulate. What would that feel like to be so strong and so brilliant, like a crystal? You know, then since we are also using our imagination to picture that tree, like our branches can move and we're flexible and we're blowing in the wind. And so we have that flexibility and movement, but we have that strong pillar and connection. And it's keeping us so solid and so vibrant and alive here. It's just this amazing feeling of abundance that I feel like the lack mentality that we've been kind of ingrained with starts to shift quickly when we tap into this new, I call it like consciousness, this new evolutionary step in our consciousness is huge for how we're manifesting in the world. Yeah. Any other technique that you would like to share?
Those are really the big ones that I'm like, those are my solids all the time, you know, type of thing. I mean, there are 64 of them, so there are
she's done them all. I've been practicing on her. She's my guinea pig.
Yeah, and they're really fantastic. They're amazing, and you can, you know, even just doing one in a meditation session is so empowering.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap it up and get on the table and do a live meditation for the first time. I've been recording these in audio form, but now I'm really stretching my growing edges and recording a video of doing the meditation with Sydney, because she's been so kind to let us like hop in on her session. I did just want to close with this 30-day meditation challenge will start September 18th. It'll be free on YouTube, and then you can also check online to get a little bit more information at transformationaltraining2017.com. That'll link to the empowerment program and give you a little bit more information about the courses. And right now, this free meditation experience will be offered the 30 days on YouTube for free. So please do check it out, see if you like it. And then if you want more, then the empowerment course will be offered this fall, sometime in October. I'm keeping myself really honest by recording these videos every day live with you, so that I actually do the practice and create the course. And so it's really helping me be accountable and really show up in a new way. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm Jen Healy. Sydney, thank you again. Really, really appreciate you, and so happy that I could finally interview you.
Fun to be here.
Thanks again for being my superstar client and continuing. And then we'll be right back with part 2. We're going to go ahead and get set up for our meditation.